Hello everyone, welcome to the GHB Tempestrel tier list update with Silque. Honestly, I was not even sure I was going to make this video. I've been debating on even making it for the entire week. And I kinda decided to say, screw it, I'll do it this time. In the future, however, I might change the way I do tier list updates for GHB Tempestrel unit. If a unit is very worth talking about, I will probably continue just releasing video for them alone. If a character is very underwhelming, I'll do something similar to what I did with Silque and Travent. Because if there's not much to talk about, then the video is kind of pointless, I feel like. And therefore, if I can cram two people in one, because they're not that amazing, I will. Especially considering we already know that Eve is going to be a Lance Flyer, as if he ever has a chance and be even remotely decent. Well, that was squandered completely. We also know, I believe, that he does not have a pref, so yay, another Lance Flyer with nothing to show for. Amazing, IS. I'm so glad that you shit on all of these fan favorites constantly. This is especially worse when I compare this to another gacha I play, which will not be named because it's not safe for work. But despite being not safe for work, it's probably the nicest gacha that I've ever played to its player base. And to contrast Silque, in that game, we basically got a bootleg version of a really strong unit. And by very strong unit, I mean the strongest unit of the game. In which case, having a bootleg, free-to-play version of it is really good. Meanwhile, you have Silque that has competition in a Gen 1 unit, of all things. The contrast could not be more clear. But, yeah. Moving on to the video itself, let's talk about Silque and her stat line. So, yeah, it kinda comes in with not much to her name. It's basically a cab version of her infantry variation. The thing is, however, is that infantry units have access to so much support. It's kind of funny. It actually opens so much avenues to her. And also the fact that she had an extra, well, 11 BST, I believe. Kinda helps. She ended up having good attack, good def, good res. And in a world where the only thing that's similar was Azama, she basically was an Azama with an attack stat, which was quite good. She was min-maxed to hell, and it actually worked in her favor. Here, however, she is not exactly min-maxed. Her attack is... It's 28, guys. I don't know what to tell you more than this. That attack is piss at best. Especially worse when you actually compare it to the unit I'm going to be comparing her to. Her def and res are good, but... I mean... You'll see when we get to the comparison. It's so flagrant how useless this unit is by comparison. And the unit I'm comparing her to is not even a 5-star exclusive, for God's sake. As far as skills are concerned, she comes with... well, nothing really amazing outside of the wand. The wand basically is just if someone has the highest speed, you basically give them attack and def plus 5. We got something similar with Christmas Erica, I believe. Except I believe it buffed def and res, so this is slightly better. Not to mention, you can actually combo this into speed opening, which is kind of why it's in her kit, to be able to give 5 attack, 6 speed, and 5 def. This is one of the reason I would say keep a one-off of her, because you can't actually fodder both unless you kill both. And at that point, it's kind of just a case of that's not really worth doing. If you're going to do this, just use Silque herself. It's going to do the same thing at the end of the day. That said, the one is really good, and if you really want a staff unit that can work as a cheerleader as well as a fighter, this staff is quite good for the cheerleader aspect of it. Personally, I'll probably 5-star the second Silque I got and probably kill her off for a wand and give that to Lachesis. In case you don't know, Lachesis is probably the one I've invested the most things in, so it's no surprise there either. I think I ended up spending like 600k feathers on her so far. It's kind of ridiculous. She's my go-to healer though, so it's kind of a good situation to actually provide the staff, since I actually did not have Christmas Erica's staff. So yeah. Other than this though, our entire kit is all skills that are fairly available. Risk gives live to serve at 5-star, just the same as her. Heavenly Light is quite available. Martyr Plus is quite available with, I believe, that would be Azama and Lucius. So yeah, it's really come down to, do you need speed opening or do you need Raypert's wand? So yeah, speed opening is also really good to have if you want to combo it into Legendary Eliwood. That said, the character needs to have the highest attack and highest speed to make use of this. So be careful when you actually use this, because Eliwood does have a speed stat. And him taking the buff would kind of be a problem now, wouldn't it? Honestly, I really do hope we get something like Raypert Wand, but basically granting speed and res plus 5 to the ally with the highest attack. Something like that would be amazing, because it would combo extremely well into Legendary Eliwood. Just my 2 cents. Oh, another thing I guess I should mention is the fact that Silque does not have a pref. I don't know if this is accurate. I feel like it's not, but I cannot think of anything else. I believe there's only 3 units that are staffs units with actual prefs. In total, you have Brave Veronica, Brave Camilla, and then for some reason, Fjorn. Bright Fjorn. I don't think there's any other, like, pref staffs. Even seasonal, like, we typically get a new staff that can be inherited because that's actually more money for them. And I think that's all the pref staff we've got. A pref staff here would have actually probably redeemed Silque because of how little there is in the game. And one of them is utterly garbage, which is Camilla's one. I mean, it can work. It's just not extremely helpful is the problem. But Veronica's staff is amazing, Fjorm's staff is amazing, and that's kinda it. Oh, actually, there's a 4th staff, that would be Loki, which is also a bad staff, so, yeah. Moving on. Just saying, they really should be giving more pref staffs at this point, because Jesus Christ, make the unit a bit unique. The problem with staff units is that it really comes down to what's your stat compared to their stats. Nothing else. Because you can't be unique, none of them have pref. As if prefs are a drawback at this point, Jesus. Anyway, first merge is decent. It provides you 1 HP, 1 attack, 1 death. I mean, it's kind of hard to go in a better position, except if instead of death it went into res, which would have made sense considering she starts with 4 death and 15 res in Echoes. But, oh well, I guess. It makes sense that she has a death stat, because that's literally one of her highest growth in Echoes. But if you're talking about level 1 stat, it feels like res should be the highest one out of the list, which would secure a point there, and would also help for ploying, but that's just me. As far as comparison is concerned, here is our Overlord Clarine. The, to this day, best stat line of any and all Cav healers. I have no idea how this character has not been power crept ever since a release. Guys, it's been 3 years. What are you doing? And please don't tell me Nana is better. Nana ends up having a bit more attack and speed, but she's less bulky overall, making Clarine the better support one overall, because unless you end up with enough damage to kill with Nana, then Clarine is simply better. Yes, this is where we live at this point. Same thing with Eflin. I remember vividly actually comparing Nana to Clarine and saying Clarine was better. I still believe in that. I remember vividly saying that Eflin was okay, but Clarine was just basically doing everything better. And this is more or less the same now. If you're talking about bulk, you'll typically be running one of the stand seals on either Clarine or Silque. It would be warding stance on Silque and steady stance on Clarine. Now, if you're talking about bulk, yes, Silque has a bit more bulk. If you're considering steady stance Clarine with versus warding stance Silque, which by the way, don't even mention other stance. These are the only two that either can use. Why? I don't know. It's just a weird restriction. To me, it seems they just forgot to do steady stance and just called it there. So first off, they have the same res, although Clarine can go res plus to provide ploy support and do it better than Silque for some reason. If you're talking about steady stance versus warding stance, Clarine has 35-33 versus Silque's 37-39. Silque ends up with 2 more def and 6 more res. Okay. What's the cost of this? Oh yeah, getting doubled by everything in existence. Oh. See, this is the problem. Clarine is so min-maxed, quote-unquote min-maxed, in a way that she has the bulk, she has the speed, her attack is lackluster, but it doesn't matter, that honestly you could literally just make a Cav healer with exactly the same stat as Clarine and every point put into attack afterward, and you'd actually have a busted stat line overall. But IS has not done that. They've never touched that, never did anything like that, and instead we get stuff like Silque, like Eflin, which is more or less the same but more expensive and worse, Nana, which is more or less the same but actually cuter, but sadly also worse. I don't know what to tell you. There's just no reason in wasting 2,700 Grail on a unit that's actually worse than a Gen 1 healer. This speed makes all the difference. The fact is, taking 2 more points of damage only once versus getting 2 more, taking 2 points less, but you get it twice, which enable people to proc stuff like Moonbow, which makes your the entire point of having more bulk useless, is kind of just not great overall. Silque's stat line, or really points in general, have been spent like, if you're considering the attack speed def res versus the other side's attack speed def res, I believe that's about equal, and all of the point difference between Clarine and Silque, well, Silque ended up putting all of that into HP as a horse unit, meaning no sudden panic, no anything. I don't know what to say. This is just overall so restrictive. There's not much you can really even do with Silque. Unless you run Panic Ploy with, like, double like HP plus 5, I guess, and like legendary unit to support it, I guess. Is it worth it? Hell no. So yeah, overall, I'd say Silque. If you want to use her base kit. She's gonna be a good buffer. And if you want to use her as something more, just build Clarine. You're going to prefer that overall. I still am shocked that Clarine has not been power crept whatsoever in 3 years. Probably the most long-standing stat line as far as units are concerned in the entire game, which is just... I mean, I'll take it, but why her? Oh well. She used to even be the best healer overall because Cav having more reach made them overall better. Add to that really good bulk, and you ended up just with this nightmare of a unit that would just not die. I guess you could just want to run like Fortress Def Res with Fortress Def as the seal. And then you're at like 40 Def, 39 Res. Unbuffed. See what I mean? It's kind of silly. At that point you're basically immortal, you just won't die for the most part. And you're just going to be fine. That's kind of the thing with Clarine. She's just really good overall, and a lot of people don't even realize this because, well, for one, I never talk about Cav healers because they just don't release any, and when they do release some, they're typically pretty useless. Or more or less the same thing as another one. They either do one of two things with healers. They either go attack speed route, or more attack, not too great speed but usable, with good def and bad res. Silque is different, which is nice, but like, how about you go for decent bit of speed, good def, good res, and ignore the attack stat? They are support unit after all. I don't know. I don't need Veronica like 5.0. I already have Veronica. Everyone has Veronica at this point because of Hero Fest. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. So as far as the tier list is concerned, yeah, you can't really expect me to put her very high. I was expecting to put her in A-, but then if I were to compare Eflin to Silque, I would still say Eflin is better. Because Eflin has a speed stat and def stat. Her res is kind of not good, but for the rest of it, she's pretty decent. Again, though, not amazing, but decent. That's kind of the problem in general when it comes down to, well, both free-to-play healer calves. Staff calves, I guess. They just kind of do the same thing as, guess what? Launch units. Just with maybe a bit more stats. Who cares? That's kind of the problem in general with this. I don't really expect to see any staff units being decent as free-to-play units because they are so afraid of giving them prefs. I don't expect any of them to be good. In case you have not noticed, not a single refine was a staff unit. And we barely have any, like, staff prefs. Like, we have 4, as far as I'm aware. What? Oh well. Overall, there's really not much to say here. Silque is a decent one-off purely because of the stuff she has, which can just be put on any and all staff units, so not really a whole lot to your name, girl. Good buffer for arena. And yeah, that's kind of her entire role. Very similar to Travent. Except Travent is able to check a unit that's really frustrating to deal with, which is Altina, of course. Because Altina is just extremely frustrating to deal with. Travent having high def, high attack with quick riposte allows you to take her down, which is insanely valuable. Not really enough to make him like a merge project, but it does make him a more important one-off than a unit like Silque. Man, did not expect them to be able to pull off something worse than Travent in less than a month, but here we are. But yeah, with that said, I believe I've said all I had to say here. In conclusion, Silque is not that great. I do hope she, you know, had a speed stat. Even just 30 speed would have been enough. Like 30 base speed. So at plus 10 that would be 34. But unfortunately, not so lucky, and she just decided to retain her absolutely garbage speed stat. At least she looks kind of pretty. I don't like her idle art, but she actually looks quite pretty when she's in her attacking art or healing art, or however the heck you want to call that. The problem is that's not enough for me. So I'll just move on. So yeah, that's about all I had to say here. Very short video because, again, there's just not much to say here. It's a generic healer cav with a good weapon and C-slot. And a bad stat line. It's kind of hard for me to say more than that. There's not much else to say about this. So yeah. Have a nice one, y'all. And, of course, if you're waiting for my stream, for like the typical Sunday stream, I might be starting an hour later, just because it's literally almost 7 AM and I haven't slept yet. So I do want to at least power nap 3 to 4 hours. But yeah, I'll be seeing you all there. Have a nice one, everyone, and see you all later.